if your bank account feels stuck, if money comes in but never seems to stay, if you are working harder than ever, but the abundance just is not flowing the way you know it should, I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. You are not broken. You are not cursed. You are not being punished by the universe. What is happening to you right now has a spiritual name. Florence Scovel Shinn called it the violation of the law of circulation. And October 2025 is the exact moment when you can break free from this invisible prison forever. Before we go any deeper, if you are new to this channel, welcome to the most powerful spiritual wisdom ever recorded. I am here to bring you the authentic, unfiltered teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn, the woman who decoded the invisible laws that govern money, health, relationships, and destiny itself. Click that subscribe button right now, because what you are about to learn will change everything you thought you knew about abundance. This is not another manifestation video. This is not about vision boards or repeating affirmations while nothing changes. This is about activating a specific spiritual law that has been hidden in plain sight for over 100 years. A law so powerful that when you understand it, when you truly apply it, the floodgates of heaven itself open in your life. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote about this law in 1925. She saw it work miracles in the lives of thousands of people. She watched the desperate become prosperous. She witnessed the sick become whole. She saw relationships restored and destinies fulfilled. And at the center of every single transformation was this one law, the law of circulation. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with yourself right now. When money comes into your hands, what is your first instinct? Is it to hold on tightly? Is it to immediately think about all the bills, all the debts, all the emergencies that might come? Do you grip that money with fear, with anxiety, with a voice in your head screaming, "This has to last. Do not let it go. You might never get more"? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you have just identified the exact spiritual blockage that is keeping abundance away from you. You see, the universe operates on laws, not suggestions, not guidelines, laws. And the law of circulation is as absolute as the law of gravity. When you violate it, there are consequences. When you align with it, there are rewards beyond anything your logical mind can comprehend. Here is what most people do not understand about money, about abundance, about prosperity of any kind. It is not meant to be hoarded. It is not meant to be clutched. It is not meant to sit still. Money in the spiritual realm is energy. And energy that does not move becomes stagnant. Stagnant energy becomes toxic. Toxic energy repels the very thing you are trying to attract. Florence Scovel Shinn said it perfectly, and I want you to let these words sink deep into your consciousness. Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving. But here is the part nobody talks about. You cannot see yourself receiving if your hands are closed. You cannot create space for the new if you are clutching the old with white knuckles and a heart full of fear. The law of circulation states very simply this: what you send out returns to you multiplied. But you must send it out first. You must release. You must give. You must circulate. This goes against everything the world has taught you, does it not? The world says accumulate, hoard, protect, save for the rainy day. The world operates from lack, from fear, from the belief that there is not enough to go around. But Florence Scovel Shinn operated from a different reality. She operated from the spiritual truth that there is infinite supply in the universe, and you tap into that supply not by holding on, but by letting go. Now, why am I talking about this today? Why is October 2025 so critically important? Because October is the month of the divine harvest. Think about this for a moment. In the natural world, October is when the fields are heavy with grain. It is when the trees are burdened with fruit. It is when farmers reap what they planted months ago. October is the culmination, the manifestation, the physical proof that seeds become harvests when conditions are right. And in the spiritual realm, October 2025 is a portal. It is a window of time when the veil between the physical and spiritual is thinner. It is when the universe is literally positioned to pour out blessings, to release abundance, to reward those who align with divine law. But here is the key. Here is what you must understand with absolute clarity. The harvest does not come to those who planted nothing. The harvest does not come to those who hoarded their seeds in fear. The harvest comes to those who planted, who gave, who released their seeds into the soil, trusting that multiplication was the promise of the divine. You are living in the harvest portal right now, today, this moment. But if you have not been circulating, if you have been operating from a consciousness of lack and fear, if you have been gripping and holding and refusing to let go, then you have nothing in the ground to harvest. That is about to change. Because today, right now, you are going to learn exactly how to activate the law of circulation in your life. You are going to understand why Florence Scovel Shinn called this the master key to prosperity. And you are going to take specific practical steps that will position you to receive the October harvest that has your name on it. But before we get to the how, you need to understand the why at a much deeper level. You need to see the full picture of what happens when circulation stops. You need to witness the spiritual mechanics of blockage and flow. Because once you see it, you can never unsee it. And once you understand it, every financial decision you make for the rest of your life will be transformed. So let me take you deeper into the law of circulation. Let me show you what Florence Scovel Shinn discovered when she peered behind the veil of physical reality and saw the invisible forces that determine whether you live in abundance or poverty. There is a river that runs through the invisible realm. Florence Scovel Shinn saw it. She understood it. She taught thousands of people how to step into its current and be carried to their highest good. This river is not made of water. It is made of divine substance. It is the flow of infinite supply that pours from the heart of God into the physical world. And every single human being on this planet has access to this river. Every single person can drink from it, bathe in it, be sustained by it. But here is what happens to most people. They approach the river with a cup. They dip their cup into the flowing water. They fill it up. And then, out of fear, out of doubt, out of a lifetime of programming that says there might not be more, they walk away from the river. They clutch that cup. They protect it. They ration it drop by drop, constantly worried that when it runs out, they will die of thirst. And do you know what happens? The water in that cup becomes stale. It becomes undrinkable. It stops being life-giving and starts being toxic. Meanwhile, the river continues to flow. Fresh water, pure water, unlimited water is right there. But they cannot see it anymore because they walked away, because they chose the cup over the river. This is the violation of the law of circulation. Florence Scovel Shinn understood something that most spiritual teachers miss entirely. She understood that God is not a bank vault with limited resources that might run out if too many people make withdrawals. God is an infinite source. God is the river that never stops flowing. And the only way to access the infinite is to stay in the flow of circulation. Listen to what she wrote, and I want you to hear this not with your mind, but with your spirit. God is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways. Notice what she did not say. She did not say, I will hold on to whatever I get because I might never receive again. She did not say, I must protect and hoard because supply is limited. She declared infinite supply. She declared continual flow. She declared circulation. And then she lived it. She practiced it. She proved it over and over again in her own life and in the lives of everyone she counseled. Let me explain the spiritual mechanics of how this works. Because when you understand the mechanics, faith becomes knowledge, and knowledge becomes power. In the invisible realm, there are channels. Think of them like spiritual arteries that connect the infinite supply of the universe to your physical reality. When you are born, these channels are wide open. Children have no problem receiving. They expect gifts. They trust that their needs will be met. They have not yet learned fear. But then life happens. Disappointment happens. Lack happens. Betrayal happens. And slowly, gradually, those channels start to narrow. Not because the universe withdrew its supply, but because fear began to constrict the flow. And here is where it gets critical. Here is the key that unlocks everything. Those channels do not just bring supply in. They also send supply out. They are circulation channels. They are two-way streets. And when you close the outflow out of fear, you automatically close the inflow. When you stop giving, you stop receiving. Not because God is punishing you, but because you have violated a spiritual law as real and absolute as the law of gravity. Florence Scovel Shinn told a story about a woman who came to her absolutely desperate. This woman had been wealthy. She had owned property, had investments, had security. But slowly, over the course of several years, everything dried up. Money stopped coming in. Opportunities disappeared. It was as if the universe had forgotten her address. When Florence began to counsel this woman, she asked a simple question. What happened to your generosity? When did you stop giving? And the woman broke down. She confessed that years ago, when her finances first started to tighten, she made a decision. She decided to stop all charitable giving. She stopped tithing. She stopped helping friends in need. She stopped circulating her money. She thought she was being wise, being prudent, being responsible. But what she actually did was close the channel. She dammed the river. And a dammed river does not just stop flowing forward. It starts to stagnate. It starts to die. Florence gave this woman very specific instructions. She told her to give away a sum of money that felt significant, that felt like sacrifice, that felt like faith. Not from abundance, but from the little she had left. And she told her to do it immediately, before fear could talk her out of it. The woman obeyed. She gave. She released. She circulated. And within 3 weeks, an unexpected inheritance came through. Property that had been tied up in legal disputes for years suddenly released. Money that she had written off as lost was returned to her. The channel opened. The river flowed. Circulation was restored. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is law. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote, "Every man on this planet is taking his picture. If he sees lack, poverty, and limitation, those things will appear on his negative. But if he photographs opulence and plenty, he will have opulence and plenty." But here is what she meant by that. Your consciousness, your beliefs, your habitual thoughts and actions are like a camera. They are constantly taking pictures of your inner world and projecting them onto your outer circumstances. And when you hoard, when you clutch, when you operate from fear of lack, you are taking a picture of poverty. You are declaring to the universe, there is not enough. I must protect what little I have because more might never come. And the universe, which always says yes to your declarations, gives you more experiences of not enough. But when you give, when you release, when you circulate with joy and faith, you are taking a picture of abundance. You are declaring, I have more than enough. I trust the infinite supply. I am a conduit, not a container. And the universe responds to that declaration with more opportunities to give, more resources to circulate, more abundance to experience. Now, I know what some of you are thinking right now. You are thinking, but I barely have enough for myself. How can I possibly give? How can I circulate when I am already struggling? And this is where faith becomes practical. This is where spiritual law meets daily life. Florence Scovel Shinn never told people to give foolishly. She never told people to give beyond their means in ways that would create crisis. But she did tell people to give from faith instead of fear. She told them to give from the consciousness of abundance, even if the physical circumstances did not yet reflect that abundance. Because here is the profound truth. You cannot wait until you have abundance to start circulating. Circulation is what creates the abundance. Giving is not the result of prosperity. Giving is the cause of prosperity. Let me say that again because it is so important. Giving is not the result of prosperity. Giving is the cause of prosperity. You do not wait until the river fills your life before you start letting it flow through you. You become the channel first. You open yourself to circulation first. And then the river rushes in because there is finally space for it to move. Think about the greatest rivers on earth, the Amazon, the Nile, the Mississippi. What makes them great? It is not that they hold water. It is that they move water. They circulate water. They take water from the source and deliver it to the sea. And in the process, they nourish entire ecosystems. They create life everywhere they flow. But what happens to a body of water that does not flow? The Dead Sea. It receives water from the Jordan River, but it has no outlet. Nothing flows out. And because nothing flows out, it becomes so saturated with salt and minerals that nothing can live in it. It is called the Dead Sea for a reason. You are not meant to be the Dead Sea. You are meant to be the Amazon. You are meant to receive and give, take in and pour out, be filled and overflow. You are meant to circulate. And October 2025 is your moment to step into that flow in a way you never have before. Because this is not just any October. This is the October when you finally understand what Florence Scovel Shinn was trying to tell the world 100 years ago. This is the October when the law of circulation stops being a concept and becomes your lived reality. But understanding alone is not enough. Knowledge alone does not transform. You need to see this law in action. You need to witness what happens when real people, with real struggles, with real fear, chose to trust circulation instead of hoarding. So let me tell you 3 stories. 3 true accounts of what happens when you activate the law of circulation. 3 testimonies to the power of giving, releasing, and trusting the infinite supply. The first story I want to share with you is about a woman named Margaret. Margaret came to Florence Scovel Shinn in the winter of 1923. She was a widow. Her husband had died suddenly 2 years prior, leaving her with 3 children to raise and almost no money. She had taken work as a seamstress, but the pay was barely enough to cover rent and food. Every single day was a calculation of survival. Every penny was accounted for. Every expense was agonized over. Margaret told Florence that she felt like she was drowning. She said the harder she worked, the less money she seemed to have. It was as if some invisible force was working against her, making sure she never got ahead no matter how much effort she put in. Florence listened carefully, and then she asked Margaret a question that seemed almost cruel given her circumstances. She asked, "When was the last time you gave anything away?" Margaret was stunned. She said, "Give something away? I have nothing to give. I can barely feed my own children. How could I possibly give to someone else?" And Florence said something that would change Margaret's life forever. She said, "That is exactly why you have nothing. You have closed the channel of circulation. You have told the universe that you are a woman of lack, and so the universe keeps giving you more experiences of lack." Then Florence gave Margaret very specific instructions. She told her to take $1, which at that time was a significant sum for someone in Margaret's position, and give it away. Not lend it, not invest it, hoping for return. Give it away completely, with no expectation of getting it back, and she told her to give it to someone who needed it even more than she did. Margaret was terrified. $1 was food for 3 days. $1 was the difference between keeping the lights on or sitting in darkness. But something in Florence's voice, something in the authority with which she spoke, made Margaret trust. She went home. She thought about who needed money more than she did, and she remembered a woman in her building, a woman even older than Margaret, who had no children to help her and no work at all. Margaret took that $1, wrapped it in paper, and slipped it under the old woman's door with a note that said simply, "From a friend who believes better days are coming for you." Margaret told Florence later that giving away that $1 felt like jumping off a cliff. Every logical thought in her head screamed that she was being foolish, irresponsible, reckless, but she did it anyway. She activated circulation even though everything in her circumstances said she should hold on. 3 days later, Margaret received a letter. It was from a lawyer she had never heard of, in a city she had never visited. The letter informed her that a distant relative, someone she had met only once as a child, had passed away and left her $5,000 in the will. $5,000 in 1923 was more money than Margaret had ever seen in her life. It was enough to pay off every debt, to move to a better home, to invest in a business, to secure her children's future. But the miracle was not just the money. The miracle was what Margaret learned about the law of circulation. She learned that giving does not deplete you. Giving positions you. Giving opens channels that fear keeps closed. Giving tells the universe, "I am a woman of abundance, not lack." And from that day forward, Margaret never stopped circulating. She gave regularly, generously, joyfully, and she never experienced that level of financial desperation again. Not because she became wealthy in the worldly sense, but because she learned to live in the flow of infinite supply. Florence Scovel Shinn used Margaret's story to teach a principle that she would repeat thousands of times in her work. Giving opens the way for receiving. But notice the order. Giving first, receiving second, not the other way around. Now let me tell you a second story. This one is about a man I will call Thomas. Thomas was a successful businessman. He owned a small manufacturing company, employed 30 people, and made a comfortable living. But Thomas had a philosophy that he believed made him smart. He believed in paying the minimum, charging the maximum and keeping every possible dollar for himself. When employees asked for raises, he refused. When customers asked for discounts or payment plans, he refused. When churches and charities approached him for donations, he refused. Thomas believed that generosity was for fools. He believed that the way to wealth was accumulation, not circulation. And for a while, it seemed like his philosophy was working. His bank account grew. His investments increased. He bought a bigger house, a nicer car, all the symbols of success. But then, something strange started to happen. His business began to struggle. Not dramatically at first, just small things. A major client chose a competitor. A key employee quit unexpectedly. A shipment was delayed, costing him a contract. One small problem after another, like water dripping through cracks. Thomas worked harder. He cut more costs. He became even more ruthless in his pursuit of profit. But the problems multiplied. Within 3 years, his thriving business was on the verge of bankruptcy. A friend, someone who had studied with Florence Scovel Shinn, told Thomas about the law of circulation. Thomas laughed. He said spiritual laws were nonsense, that business was about numbers and strategy, not mystical ideas. But desperation makes people teachable. When Thomas was down to his last few $1,000s, when he was about to lose everything, he finally listened. His friend gave him one assignment: start giving. Thomas resisted. He said, "I am about to lose my business and you want me to give money away? That is insane." But his friend said, "You are about to lose your business because you have violated a law. The only way to restore what you have lost is to start obeying that law again." Reluctantly, begrudgingly, Thomas started to give. He gave bonuses to employees he had underpaid. He gave donations to causes he had always ignored. He gave discounts to customers who were struggling. It felt like pouring water into sand. It felt like every dollar given was a dollar closer to total ruin. But something shifted. Not immediately, not overnight, but gradually, steadily, the tide began to turn. A client he thought he had lost permanently came back with an even bigger order. An employee he had given a bonus to worked overtime without being asked, solving a problem that had been costing the company thousands. A charity he had donated to connected him with a new distribution partner that opened doors he did not even know existed. Within 6 months, Thomas's business stabilized. Within a year, it was more profitable than it had ever been. But the real transformation was not in his bank account. The real transformation was in Thomas himself. He stopped seeing people as transactions. He stopped seeing money as something to hoard. He started to understand what Florence Scovel Shinn had taught, that wealth is not about accumulation, it is about circulation. It is not about how much you keep, it is about how much you move. Thomas became one of the most generous businessmen in his city, and the more he gave, the more he received. Not because he was manipulating a system, but because he had finally aligned himself with a law. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote, "The imaging faculty plays a leading part in the game of life. Keep your eye on the goal. Your objective point must be imaged clearly in your mind." Thomas learned to image himself not as a hoarder of wealth, but as a channel of wealth. And the moment that image shifted in his consciousness, everything shifted in his reality. Now let me share the third story. This one is about a woman named Ruth. Ruth was neither desperate like Margaret, nor successful like Thomas. She was comfortable. She had enough. Not wealth, but enough. A modest job, a small apartment, savings in the bank. She was not struggling, but she was not thriving either. Ruth heard about Florence Scovel Shinn through a friend who had attended one of her lectures. She was curious about the law of circulation, but she did not think it applied to her. She thought, "This is for people who have problems. I am doing fine." But one night, Ruth had a dream. In the dream, she saw herself standing in a vast warehouse filled with wrapped gifts. Thousands of them, stacked from floor to ceiling, all with her name on them. She walked through the warehouse, marveling at the abundance, wondering what was inside each package. Then she reached the door to leave, and it was locked. She tried to open it, but it would not budge. She looked around and saw that there was only one way out, a small chute in the wall labeled "Give to Exit." She understood immediately what the dream meant. All those gifts, all that abundance was already hers in the spiritual realm, but she could not access it, could not receive it, until she learned to give. When Ruth woke up, she felt a deep conviction. She realized that she had been living in maintenance mode. She had enough, so she never pushed beyond enough. She had been comfortable, so she never created space for more. She had been neither desperate nor generous. She had simply been neutral. And neutrality, she realized, was another form of blockage. Ruth made a decision. She took 10% of her savings, a sum that felt significant but not devastating, and she gave it away. She split it between 3 causes: a women's shelter, a scholarship fund, and an elderly neighbor who needed medical care. Ruth did not do this expecting anything in return. She did it because she understood that she had been standing at the door of her own abundance, unwilling to give in order to exit the warehouse of maintenance and enter the mansion of overflow. 2 weeks later, Ruth was offered a promotion at work she had not even applied for. 1 month later, an old investment she had forgotten about matured and paid out 3 times what she expected. 3 months later, she received an inheritance from a relative she barely knew. Within 6 months, Ruth's income had doubled. But more than the money, more than the physical abundance, Ruth experienced something she had never felt before: freedom. She felt free to give without fear. She felt free to trust without anxiety. She felt free to circulate without wondering if there would be enough. She wrote to Florence Scovel Shinn and told her about the dream, about the decision to give, about the avalanche of blessings that followed. And Florence wrote back with one sentence that Ruth framed and hung on her wall: "You have discovered that the only prison is the one we build with closed hands." These 3 stories, Margaret, Thomas, and Ruth, represent 3 different starting points: desperation, success, and comfort. But all 3 learned the same law. All 3 experienced the same transformation. All 3 activated circulation and watched as their lives were flooded with abundance. And now it is your turn. Now it is your moment. Now it is October 2025, the Divine Harvest Portal, and you are being invited to step into the same river that carried Margaret, Thomas, and Ruth from limitation into overflow. But you need to know exactly how to do it. You need specific instructions, practical steps, and a clear activation process that you can begin today, right now, in this moment. So let me give you the activation. Let me show you precisely how to open the channel of circulation in your life and position yourself to receive the October harvest that the universe has already prepared for you. Everything you have heard up to this point is preparation. Everything has been leading to this moment, because knowledge without application is just information. Understanding without action is just entertainment. You now know the law of circulation. You have seen it work in the lives of real people. Now you must activate it in your own life. And October 2025 is the exact right moment to do it. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that there are certain moments in time when the spiritual realm is more accessible, when the veil is thinner, when faith becomes manifest more quickly. She called these moments divine appointments. And October, the month of harvest, is one of those appointments. So here is what you are going to do. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, right now, as soon as this video ends, you are going to take the first step in activating circulation in your life. Step 1. Identify your seed. A seed is something of value that you give into circulation. It can be money, but it does not have to be money. It can be time, talent, service, resources, anything that represents value to you. But here is the key. It must be significant. It must be something that requires faith to release. If you give from abundance, from excess, from what you do not need anyway, you are not activating circulation. You are just clearing clutter. True circulation requires sacrifice. It requires you to give something you could easily justify keeping. For some of you, that seed might be $20. For others, it might be $200. For others still, it might be $2,000. The amount is not what matters. What matters is that it feels like faith. What matters is that giving it stretches you spiritually. Florence Scovel Shinn told her students, "You must give in order to receive, and you must give cheerfully, not grudgingly." Notice that word, cheerfully, not fearfully, not reluctantly, not with resentment or worry, cheerfully. Because the energy with which you give determines the energy of what returns to you. If you give from fear, you will receive more situations that create fear. If you give from obligation, you will receive more obligations. But if you give from joy, from faith, from a consciousness of abundance, you will receive abundance that creates more joy. So identify your seed. Ask yourself, what can I give that requires me to trust God's supply instead of my own resources? What can I release that proves I believe in circulation more than I believe in hoarding? Step 2. Choose your channel. A channel is where you direct your seed. And this is important. Do not give randomly. Do not give carelessly. Give with intention. Give to a place or person or cause that resonates with your spirit. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that giving should be strategic. She said, "Give where you receive spiritual nourishment." If a church, a ministry, a teacher, a cause has fed your soul, that is where your seed should go. Because when you give to a source that has nourished you, you are completing a circle. You are honoring the flow that blessed you. Some of you are going to give to a charity that helps the poor. Some of you are going to give to a person in your life who is struggling. Some of you are going to give to a ministry that teaches spiritual truth. It does not matter where you give, as long as it is intentional and it is aligned with your highest values. But do not give to manipulate. Do not give thinking, if I give here, they will give me something back. That is not circulation. That is transaction. Circulation is about trusting the universe to return your seed multiplied, not trusting a specific person or organization to repay you. Step 3. Release with declaration. This is the most powerful part of the activation. When you give your seed, when you release it into circulation, you must accompany it with a spoken declaration. Words have power. Florence Scovel Shinn built her entire teaching on the power of the spoken word. She knew that what you declare with your mouth, you create in your reality. So when you give, say this out loud, with authority, with faith, with absolute conviction. I release this seed into the law of circulation. I trust the infinite supply of the universe. As I give, so do I receive. As I circulate, so does abundance flow to me. I am a channel, not a container. I am open to receive my divine harvest in October 2025. Say it out loud, not in your head, out loud, because there is power in the spoken word that does not exist in silent thought. Your voice carries vibration. Your declaration shifts energy. Your words activate law. Step 4. Create space to receive. This is where most people fail. They give, they release, they declare, and then they go right back to a consciousness of lack. They give away $20 and then spend the next week worrying about money. They activate circulation and then immediately close the channel with fear and doubt. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Prepare for your good, get ready to receive." What does that mean practically? It means you act as if your harvest is already on the way. You do not sit around anxious and worried. You do not obsess over your bank account. You do not calculate and recalculate trying to figure out how you are going to make it. You get ready. You clear space in your life for the abundance that is coming. You clean out your closet to make room for new clothes. You organize your finances to be a good steward of the increase that is coming. You prepare your mind and your heart to receive without guilt, without shock, without questioning whether you deserve it. Because here is a truth that will set you free. You do not have to deserve abundance. You just have to be aligned with the law that creates it. Step 5. Testify and multiply. When your harvest begins to come, and it will, you must testify. You must tell the story. You must give glory to the law that produced the result. Not to brag, not to boast, but to strengthen your own faith and to inspire faith in others. Florence Scovel Shinn was a master of testimony. She collected hundreds of stories of people whose lives were transformed by applying spiritual law. She shared those stories in her books, in her lectures, in her private counseling. And every story she told reinforced the law and activated it in the lives of those who heard. So when money comes unexpectedly, when an opportunity opens out of nowhere, when a blessing falls into your lap that you did not work for or manipulate, testify. Tell someone. Write it down. Post it in the comments of this video. Because testimony is not just celebration. Testimony is activation. When you declare what God has done, you create space for God to do it again and again and again. Now, let me give you a specific ritual for October 2025. This is a practical activation that combines all 5 steps into one powerful act of faith, the October Harvest Ritual. On any day this month, preferably before October ends, you are going to perform this ritual. You are going to take your seed, whatever you have identified as your act of circulation, and you are going to release it with full ceremony. Find a quiet place. Light a candle if you can. Hold your seed in your hands. Whether it is cash, a check, a commitment to serve, whatever form it takes. Close your eyes. Feel the weight of it. Acknowledge that giving this requires faith. Acknowledge that releasing this is an act of trust in invisible supply. Then say this prayer, adapted from the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn. Infinite Spirit, I recognize that you are my source. I recognize that there is no lack in the universe, only lack in my consciousness. Today, I align my consciousness with your abundance. Today, I activate the law of circulation. I release this seed as a declaration of faith. I give cheerfully, knowing that as I give, I receive. I plant this seed in the soil of October's divine harvest portal. I trust that it will return to me, multiplied, pressed down, shaken together, running over. I am open, I am ready. I am a golden link in the chain of God's infinite supply. And so it is. Amen. Then release it. Give it. Send it. Circulate it. And do not look back. Do not second guess. Do not wonder if you made a mistake. You have just activated a law as real as gravity. Now trust the law to do what it does. Over the next 30 days, pay attention. Watch for signs of harvest. Watch for unexpected money. Watch for opportunities. Watch for open doors. Watch for blessings that you did not work for. They are going to come. Not because you are lucky, not because you are special, but because you aligned yourself with a law that produces abundance when it is obeyed. And when the harvest comes, remember step 5. Testify. Tell the story. Strengthen your faith by acknowledging what happened. Because the more you testify, the more you position yourself for the next level of circulation. Florence Scovel Shinn said it this way, and I want these words to be burned into your consciousness. Faith is expectancy. What are you expecting? What are you expecting from this October? What are you expecting from the activation you just performed? Are you expecting increase? Are you expecting overflow? Are you expecting doors to open and provision to come? Because whatever you expect with faith is what you will experience in reality. You have now been given the complete activation. You have the knowledge. You have the steps. You have the ritual. You have everything you need to position yourself for the greatest October of your life. But there is one more thing I need to tell you. One final word. One critical instruction that will determine whether this moment becomes a turning point or just another piece of information you heard and forgot. Now, I know what some of you are thinking right now. You are thinking, I am going to do this activation. I am going to give my seed. I am going to make my declaration. But how will I know if it is working? How will I know if my harvest is actually coming? This is a legitimate question. And Florence Scovel Shinn had a very specific answer to it. She taught that the universe always responds to faith. Always. But the response does not always come in the way you expect it or in the timing you demand. The key is learning to recognize the signs that your harvest is on the way. So let me give you the 7 signs that your October harvest is manifesting. These are not theories. These are observable patterns that show up in the lives of people who activate the law of circulation. When you see these signs, you will know with certainty that you have opened the channel and abundance is flowing toward you. Sign number 1. Synchronicities begin to multiply. A synchronicity is a meaningful coincidence. It is when you think of someone and they call. It is when you need specific information and someone mentions it randomly in conversation. It is when the exact resource you need shows up at the exact moment you need it without you asking for it. When you activate circulation, synchronicities explode. This is because you have aligned yourself with the flow of the universe. You are no longer swimming against the current. You are moving with it. And when you move with the flow moves things towards you. Pay attention to coincidences this month. Pay attention to random encounters. Pay attention to information that comes to you without you seeking it. These are not accidents. These are signs that the invisible realm is organizing circumstances in your favor. Sign number 2. The right people suddenly appear in your life. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that Your good already exists in the invisible realm, waiting for the right moment to appear. And often, your good comes through people. A person with a connection, a person with an opportunity, a person with information, a person with resources. When you activate circulation, watch who shows up. An old friend reaches out after years of silence. A stranger starts a conversation that leads somewhere unexpected. A coworker mentions something that opens a door you did not even know existed. These people are not accidents. They are messengers. They are part of your harvest. The universe is using them to deliver what you activated through circulation. Sign number 3. Opportunities that make no logical sense present themselves. This is one of the most common signs of harvest. An opportunity comes that you are not qualified for on paper, but something about it feels right. A door opens that should be closed based on circumstances, but it swings wide anyway. An invitation arrives that your logical mind says you should not accept, but your spirit says you must. When circulation is active, logic takes a back seat to divine orchestration. Things happen that should not happen according to the rules of the physical world. But they happen anyway because you are operating under spiritual law now, and spiritual law supersedes physical limitation. Do not reject opportunities because they do not make sense. Do not dismiss open doors because you cannot figure out how they opened. This is your harvest. This is circulation responding to your faith. Sign number 4. Small amounts of unexpected money start appearing. Before the flood comes, there are drops. Before the harvest fills the barn, there are handfuls. The universe often tests your response to small blessings before releasing large ones. You find $20 in an old jacket. You receive a refund you forgot about. Someone pays back a debt you had written off. A bill comes in lower than expected, freeing up money you thought was spoken for. Do not despise these small manifestations. Do not say, I activated circulation for thousands and all I got was $20. That $20 is proof the channel is open. That refund is evidence the law is working. Those small amounts are the first fruits of your October harvest. And here is what you must do when small money shows up. Circulate it immediately. Give a portion of it away. Let it flow through you, not stop with you. Because when the universe sees you honor small circulation, it releases larger circulation. Sign number 5. Doors that were locked suddenly unlock. You applied for something months ago and heard nothing. Suddenly, you get a call. You have been waiting on a resolution to a problem that seemed stuck forever. Suddenly, it moves forward. You have been blocked from an opportunity by circumstances beyond your control. Suddenly, the circumstances change. This is harvest. This is what happens when you align with circulation. Things that were frozen begin to thaw. Things that were stuck begin to move. Things that were impossible begin to manifest. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "The long arm of God reaches out over people and conditions, controlling and adjusting in ways we cannot see. When you activate circulation, you activate that long arm. You set divine intervention in motion, and locked doors do not stay locked when God is opening them." Sign number 6, you experience unusual peace about your finances. This might be the most surprising sign, but it is one of the most reliable. When circulation is active, you stop obsessing over money. You stop checking your bank account 5 times a day. You stop calculating and recalculating, trying to figure out how you are going to make it. Instead, you feel peace. You feel trust. You feel a deep, unshakable knowing that you are taken care of. Even if your physical circumstances have not changed yet, your internal state has shifted. You are no longer anxious. You are expectant. This peace is not denial. It is not you pretending everything is fine when it is not. This peace is spiritual evidence that your harvest is already secured in the invisible realm and is making its way to you in the physical realm. Sign number 7, you feel an increased desire to give more. This is the ultimate sign that circulation is flowing. When you are operating in true abundance consciousness, giving becomes a joy, not a sacrifice. You start looking for opportunities to bless others. You start thinking about how you can circulate more, not how you can hold on to more. This desire to give is not coming from obligation or guilt. It is coming from overflow. It is coming from a deep knowing that there is more than enough. And the more you circulate, the more you receive. When you feel this shift, when giving becomes your natural response instead of something you have to force yourself to do, You have entered the flow. You are living in circulation. And your harvest is not just coming, it is already here. These are the 7 signs. Watch for them this October. Recognize them when they appear. Celebrate them as evidence that the law of circulation is active in your life. But now I need to warn you about something. I need to tell you about the 4 fatal blocks that stop circulation even after you have activated it. Because it is possible to do everything right, to give your seed, to make your declaration, and then unknowingly shut down the flow before your harvest fully manifests. Fatal block number 1, giving with resentment instead of joy. You give because you feel you have to, not because you want to. You give and then immediately regret it. You give and then watch the person or organization you gave to with critical eyes, judging how they use what you gave. This is not circulation. This is transaction with resentment attached. And resentment is a poison that kills the seed you planted. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Resentment, condemnation, and criticism are the great enemies of manifestation." If you give and then feel resentful, you need to repent of that resentment immediately. You need to bless what you gave and release it completely. Otherwise, you are circulating toxic energy, and toxic energy returns toxicity. Fatal block number 2, receiving with guilt instead of gratitude. Your harvest starts to come. Money shows up. Opportunities appear. Blessings manifest. And instead of receiving them with joy and gratitude, you receive them with guilt. You think, "I do not deserve this. This is too much. I should not have this when others are struggling." This guilt stops the flow just as effectively as fear, because guilt says, "I am not worthy of abundance." And when you declare unworthiness, the universe has to honor that declaration. You literally block your own harvest by refusing to receive it without guilt. Florence Scovel Shinn taught, "God's gifts come in grace, not in payment for worthiness." You do not have to deserve abundance. You just have to be willing to receive it. So when your harvest comes, receive it with both hands and a grateful heart. Say thank you. Celebrate it. Enjoy it without guilt. Fatal block number 3, calculating your expected return. You give $100 and then start calculating. Okay, the law says it returns multiplied, so I should get at least $300 back, and it has been 2 weeks, so it should show up in the next few days. The moment you start calculating return, you have moved from faith to manipulation. You are no longer trusting circulation. You are trying to control it. And you cannot control spiritual law. You can only align with it. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Desire is a tremendous force. It must be used constructively, not destructively." When you give with an attachment to how and when you receive, you are using desire destructively. You are limiting the universe to your small ideas of how abundance can come. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the amount. Let go of the method. Just trust that circulation works, and let the universe surprise you with how your harvest manifests. Fatal block number 4, stopping circulation after your first harvest. This is the most tragic block because it happens to people who see results but then revert to old patterns. Your harvest comes. You receive unexpected money. You experience breakthrough. And then, instead of continuing to circulate, you close your hands again. You think, "Okay, I got mine. Now I need to hold on to it." And the flow stops. Because circulation is not a one-time event. It is a lifestyle. It is a consciousness. It is a continual practice of giving and receiving, giving and receiving, giving and receiving. Florence Scovel Shinn lived in perpetual circulation. She never stopped giving. She never stopped trusting. She never stopped activating the law. And she never lacked, ever. Your October harvest is not the finish line. It is the starting line. It is the proof that circulation works. And once you have that proof, you are meant to live in that flow for the rest of your life. So avoid these 4 fatal blocks. Give with joy, receive with gratitude, release expectation, and never stop circulating. Do these things. Recognize the 7 signs, avoid the 4 blocks. And October 2025 will not just be a good month. It will be the month that changes the trajectory of your entire life. Now, let me bring you to the final word. Let me give you the call to action that seals everything you have learned and activates everything you are about to experience. That one final thing is this. You must make a public declaration of your commitment to circulation. Florence Scovel Shinn understood something profound about the power of public declaration. She knew that when you speak your intention in front of witnesses, when you make your commitment known to others, you activate a level of spiritual accountability that private promises cannot touch. There is something that happens in the invisible realm when you declare your faith publicly. It is as if the universe takes notice. It is as if your angels lean in and say, "This one is serious. This one is ready. Let us move heaven and earth to support this declaration." Jesus taught this principle when he said, "If you confess me before men, I will confess you before my Father in heaven." It is not about religion. It is about spiritual law. Public declaration creates public demonstration. So here is what I want you to do right now. Before you click away from this video, before you move on to the next thing, before the moment passes, and this becomes just another video you watched and forgot, I want you to go down to the comment section, and I want you to type these exact words. I activate the law of circulation. I am a channel of abundance. October 2025 is my divine harvest month. That is it. Simple, clear, powerful. But you must do it. You must make the declaration. Because declaration is the bridge between knowledge and manifestation. And here is what is going to happen when you do this. First, you are going to feel a shift inside yourself. You are going to feel something click into place. That is the sound of a spiritual channel opening. That is the feeling of alignment with divine law. Second, when you come back to this video in 30 days, in 60 days, in 90 days, and you read your own declaration in the comments, it is going to serve as a testimony. It is going to remind you of the moment you chose faith over fear. It is going to strengthen you for the next level of circulation. And third, your declaration is going to inspire someone else. Someone is going to read your comment and think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. And that person is going to activate circulation in their own life. And their harvest is going to come. And they are going to testify. And the cycle continues. The river flows. The law multiplies. This is how movements begin. This is how transformation spreads. One person activates the law. One person testifies. One person inspires another. And suddenly, thousands of people are living in circulation instead of stagnation. So do not skip this step. Do not think, I will do it later. Do not let fear or embarrassment or I do not usually comment on videos stop you. This is not about me. This is not about the algorithm. This is about you activating a spiritual law through the power of public declaration. Go to the comments right now and type, I activate the law of circulation. I am a channel of abundance. October 2025 is my divine harvest month. I will wait. I am serious. Pause this video if you need to. Go make the declaration, then come back for the final words I have for you. Now, if you are someone who has been following this channel for a while, if you have been studying the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn through these videos, you know that every single teaching I bring you is designed to transform your life from the inside out. Every video is a key. Every lesson is a door. Every principle is a pathway to the life you were created to live. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, I need to ask you, why are you waiting? What are you waiting for? Every single week, I bring you the most powerful spiritual wisdom ever recorded. I bring you the authentic, unfiltered teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn, the woman who changed the lives of millions and whose words are still transforming people 100 years later. When you subscribe, you are not just following a channel. You are joining a community of people who are done with mediocrity, done with lack, done with limitation. You are joining a movement of people who understand that there are invisible laws governing this universe. And when you align with those laws, miracles become normal. So click that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications. Make sure you never miss a video. Because the teaching I bring you next week might be the exact key you need to unlock the next level of your destiny. Now, let me bring this full circle. Let me come back to where we started and show you what has happened over the course of this video. When we began, you were someone who felt stuck. You were someone who was working hard, but not seeing the flow of abundance you knew you deserved. You were someone who had been operating, perhaps unconsciously, from a mindset of lack and fear. But now, in this moment, you are someone different. You are someone who understands the law of circulation. You are someone who has seen that law work in the lives of Margaret, Thomas, and Ruth. You are someone who has been given the exact steps to activate that law in your own life. You are someone who has made a public declaration of faith. You are no longer the same person who started this video. You have been transformed by truth. You have been activated by knowledge. You have been positioned for harvest. And October 2025 is going to prove it. But I need to tell you something else. Something Florence Scovel Shinn discovered through decades of teaching and counseling thousands of people. She discovered that the law of circulation does not just apply to money. It applies to everything. Do you want love? Circulate love. Give love freely, generously, without expecting anything back. And watch love pour into your life from directions you never expected. Do you want friendship? Circulate friendship. Be the friend you wish you had. Give time, attention, loyalty, support. And watch as deep, genuine friendships manifest in your life. Do you want health? Circulate health. Give energy to your body through movement, nourishment, rest. Give attention to others who are sick, offering comfort and prayer. And watch as vitality flows through you. Do you want opportunities? Circulate opportunities. Help someone else get a job, make a connection, open a door, and watch as doors open for you that no human hand can shut.